WCB Podcast, your source for all things Chicago Blackhawks and everything hockey. With your host, Jerome and Tanner. Let's do it. Jerome and Tanner.
All right, it's another edition of the Windy City Bender Podcast. It's Jerome, it's Tanner. What's up, bud?
Not a lot, man. Just really feeling like a drug addict, just itching for some hockey right now, dude.
Well, we got a little taste last week. Was it Friday? A little, the supplier gave us a little taste to get us hooked and ready to go. But before we into that, great episode today. We spoke with Kirk McKnight. He is the author of The Voices of Hockey. He also wrote The Voices of Baseball, where he spoke to, for the hockey version, he spoke to over 65 different broadcasters throughout the 32 teams. And he's re-releasing the book in audio form and is even more up-to-date stuff. So now Seattle will be in there. Utah, he talks about Utah in the book. It's really awesome. We had a great conversation, just talking about the whole broadcaster side of stuff and the difference that I don't think a lot of people really think about, when they think about the game. They think about on-ice action, but it's like there's so much more to it with the broadcasters. A lot of Pat Foley talk and just a lot of love for Chicago, which is awesome. And he's a Detroit fan, so that says a lot that he still was giving a lot of love to Chicago. But so we'll get into that here. But the lone and big news for Chicago Blackhawk hockey: Frank Nazar, baby, staying in the city of Chicago.
He wasn't going anywhere, but yeah.
Well, he's staying long term, 7-year extension, and signed a very team friendly deal, which I don't know. It depends on how you look at it. Some people say he needs to fire his agent. Some people say Kyle Davidson needs a raise. I think it's just more on the term of he believes in this team.
Kyle Davidson's paying the agent on the side.
Yeah, right. But so what was the final number for the contract?
7 years, $46.2 million, which comes out to a cap hit of $6.599991 million a year.
Hell yeah!
So it's hilarious. It's the cap hit ends in 91. That's his number. Also, I didn't realize this until I was looking into it further, but which is also kind of weird. He has no signing bonuses any of those years. It's all just base salary. And the first year, his base salary is $9.1 million.
No shit.
Yeah. And that's not this season, next season. The following year, he's making 9.1 at 23 years old.
Dude, that was
it goes down.
Yeah, that's the thing that really hit me, that I was the realization that he still has one more year of his ELC.
Yeah.
So it's going to look even
8 years he's locked in for right now.
It's going to look even better when he puts up 80 points this year, and we already have locked him in for a under 6.3 cap hit. Let's go.
People think that the Jack Hughes contract is the best in the NHL. This is going to beat that by far, I think.
And everybody's already
I'm very hopeful.
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason not to be hopeful from the sample size we've seen so far. Yeah, he's only played 56 games in the NHL. He's only had 29 points. But
he's also followed that up with World Championships, where he led Team USA in points, or tied for the point leading Team USA.
How hot he finished the year in Chicago. Continued to tear it up for Team USA at the World Championship. Proceeds to get an invitation to the Team USA Olympic camp. It's just, I think everything's there for him. And even if, the way I look at it too is, even if he doesn't pan out to be this 1 or 2C, or whatever position they see him playing, this top line guy, the way the cap's going, this cap hit is going to be nothing regardless.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's a win-win situation for the Hawks.
I just don't see any situation that like this ends up looking terrible with how he played towards the end of the year. Like just carrying that forward and like the way that he played at the World Championships, being a part of the Olympics, and it's really when you know how he plays, it's all confidence, and he's so confident right now. The other thing I wanted to point out too with the Team USA stuff was the Elliot Friedman quote. It was him saying like it's a big ask for Nazar to make the Olympic team next year, but I had guys saying to me, "Don't write him off." It's like he might not make it, but he will get runway. He impressed enough people at the World Championships that they're bringing to a camp for a reason. It's like, yeah, dude. Like it may not be this Olympics, which is fine, but fucking look out.
He's the next
one. Yeah, dude. The next one, especially like he's got 4 more years of NHL, or actually it would probably, 4.5 more years at that point would be of NHL experience. And he's still only going to be 24, 25 years old. Jesus. And then it'll be him versus Bedsy in the fucking final.
Dude, and again, and Bedsy gets invited to Team Canada, and it's just like it's.
Oh, also, I don't want to discount the fact that Vlasic also got an invite.
Right?
Nobody's bringing up the fact that he got an invite too.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of projected teams that he's gonna make it as like a 7th or 8th defenseman. Like they put on the roster as like an extra guy. So, but it's like, drifting away from like the Nazar talk, but it's like Bedard going to Team Canada, Nazar, Vlasic, Team USA. Like I don't understand why there's still people questioning the direction this team is going.
Yeah,
like it blows my mind.
It's the people that are just like, Frank Nazar is not good. It's like, what do you mean he's not good? Like he's getting invites to Team USA already, and he's on his ELC. No, he's not good. Do you watch the Hawks? No, they're bad. Okay. All right. Dude, sounds good. And then they followed up with like, dude, San Jose is so sick. And you're like, fuck you.
Yeah. And it's just, I mean, there was like comparables. I wish I saved the tweet because now it's been so far, but it was like comparing players around this time on their ELC re-signing for long-term deals and more games, and they weren't that far off on points. The point differential. And again, I say this all the time, or at least I preach it. The whole point slut thing just drives me insane because points are great, goals, assists, all that. It's awesome. But we have the perfect example of Jonathan Toews, who what he showed to his value to this team, it wasn't in the points. It was his two-way game. It was his leadership in the locker room. And I'm not saying Nazar is a Jonathan Toews type guy, but I don't buy into point unless there's like a Connor Bedard who is like, okay, he's a point guy. No matter what, like that Connor Bedard is a point guy.
Yeah.
But it's like I don't see Nazar having to be a point guy.
No, because I feel Nazar like plays both ends of the ice.
Yeah, and I feel like Nazar is already showing in a short time that he can offer more to this team, and like I wholeheartedly believe he's going to end up with a letter on his sweater.
Yeah,
when it comes time to get this next class of Blackhawk, like the new leadership core, I wholeheartedly think it's going to be a combination of Bedard, Nazar, and Vlasic.
Yeah, all the Olympic hopefuls.
Yeah,
it's crazy how that works out.
Yeah.
It's not because they're good. It's also because they're good, but they're also have a lot of leadership qualities.
Yeah. And spoiler, I still think Vlasic or Nazar gets the C over Bedard. I don't think it happens, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did.
I wouldn't be surprised if the C goes to any 3 of them.
Right.
Anyway, Frankie Nazar, he's got still 8 more years now.
Blackhawk for life.
Could be.
What's up, guys? Before we get into this episode, I just want to take a quick second to ask you guys a huge favor. If you're listening to the show on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or even on your favorite platform, make sure you are subscribed or following the show. And if you're watching this on YouTube and you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like this video, leave some comments, share it with your friends. And if you just so you don't miss any future episodes, make sure you hit the little bell button so you get notified when we post new content. We appreciate it. And now let's get back to the episode. So that means
all that's left is
Bedsy.
Wyatt Kaiser
for this upcoming season is Wyatt Kaiser.
Yep. And then Bedsy and Spencer Knight and Kevin Korchinski.
Korchinski, I'm good waiting until next season, or that's off season.
But let's pretend it's NHL 26, which comes out in like 2 weeks. And Kevin Korchinski is a medium elite. And you're like, I can lock him up right now for 8 years at like $3 million. And he's going to grow to a 90 overall.
Yeah, no shit.
So that's not the case.
But it's hard. You know what? Vlasic really screwed everything up because it's really hard to justify giving anybody else anything more than what Vlasic is making on his contract.
Dude,
he really. If I'm the defensive core looking at contract time, I'd be like, son of a bitch, you fucking asshole. Dude, like, why did you take?
Yeah, Kyle Davidson was able to get Alex Vlasic for under $5 million. He's able to get Frank Nazar for under $7 million. And then he was able to get Ryan Donato at $4 million for 4 years. It's just, I don't know. Like, either he's lucky and these guys are like, I love being here so much that like, I'm going to make this work. Or he's also lucky and these guys don't understand that the cap is going up. Or he's very lucky because these guys don't understand how good they are or how good they're going to be.
So the true test will be what Bedard signs.
Yeah. And I was
unless everybody else around is like, we need to keep Bedard here. Let's give you guys as much cap space to work with as possible.
Yeah, that's true. Just be like, all right, now I'm signed. Go get that guy for like fucking $17 million. That's fine. I won't feel as bad.
What number do you think Bedard signs at this point now?
If he were to sign today,
has it changed has this signing of Nazar and how he was able to negotiate this contract, does that change your initial reaction to what Bedard's going to sign? Yeah.
Bedsy's going to sign an 8-year deal at 7.5.
Now let's go the realistic answer.
It's just the Kyle Davidson way.
Now let's go the realistic answer.
I still think that he gets like 12.5 off of his first deal.
I'm holding out hope for like a 10.5.
10.5. I could see it being anywhere between 10.5 and 12.5. I think that's why Bedard wants to, or reports that they're fine. Both parties are fine with waiting, until the season's over so that he can really prove 12.5 or more is like the right number.
You think there's like 2 contracts on the table right now, and he's like, you sign right now, it's contract A, but you go out and have a fucking amazing season, it's contract B?
Maybe. I just think that like they might have like smaller discussions and be like, what are you thinking? Okay, like, and then he's like, oh, well, I'd like to play the year and see if I can, be even better than what you guys think I'm going to be. Whenever I hear people are like, oh, he should take a bridge contract, it's like, no, what fucking first overall pick is taking a bridge deal? No one, I don't even know if anybody has since like Patrick Kane.
And Matthews
has only taken small contracts. He hasn't taken an 8-year though.
But I'm saying technically.
That's no, because it's not a bridge deal if he's bridging into another bridge. It's like he knows that the cap's going up, so he's just keeping his contracts short years and fucking tons of money for winning nothing.
He doesn't deserve to get paid. There, I said it.
I don't know when this fucking flip flop happened where players were getting paid for what they might do rather than what they have done.
But I mean, that's the basis of Nazar's contract a little bit here, no?
Yes. No, I'm saying like in the NHL, there was a switch because, Kane and Taves were making $6 million and they won 3 cups. And then because they won 3 cups, they got 10.5. But I mean, they were also really fucking good. So it's like they deserve that.
Yeah.
And like a bunch of players were getting paid because they were fucking performing. And then at some point it was like, oh, we know you're going to do well. Like, we're going to pay you like you've already fucking done well. But they haven't won anything yet. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
like if Colorado knew Nate McKinnon was going to be as good as Nate McKinnon is, he would have made $10 million as his first contract. But he didn't, because he wasn't playing well. He was putting up like not even over 60 points a year. And then that's why he got a $6 million contract. I guess he did have like a bridge deal, kind of.
I was
So
gonna say McKinnon,
like the last one,
yeah.
but he was getting paid for what he had done, or like not what he was going to do. Then he fucking was breaking 90 points and being MVP status, and now it's like, okay, like, yeah, $12 fucking million, like, that makes sense. But Jesus, like, I don't know. Shit flipped around.
I don't know. All I'm taking this as is the players are buying into what Kyle Davidson is pitching and the vision that they're throwing down. The vibes with the players seem like very, very high, very good. Like, this seems like a group of players that really enjoy each other and are thrilled to be playing with each other. Like, as you saw when Nazar's contract got announced, like, all the young guys sharing on their Instagram stories, like preaching it. Like, I like Bedard's, he shared the story or the post and just goes, rich.
Yeah.
Like, oh, rich. And then like Moore and Renzel and all these guys. And then it's like, you take that, and the Hawks today posted a video of Jeff Blashill in the coach's room. They're going over his first pitch at Wrigley Field, debating and breaking down if the pitch bounced or not, and the guys are laughing, having a good time. It's just, everything seems to be building correctly for this team, and it's one more year of, okay, let's get through the season and let's get to the off. Like, and saying that too, it's like, I still think it's gonna be a fun season. Like,
I think this is gonna be the most fun season from the last. I
think people talking about how Bedard looked so miserable losing last season, and the San Jose Sharks, Celebrini and Will Smith, all that looked like they're having a good time, and all that kind of stuff. I think that flips this year. I think you're going to be seeing these guys in Chicago. I mean, but maybe not Bedard, because Bedard's a fucking robot, and all he does is want to win and be at the top of his game. But I think you're going to be seeing the post of smiles and goofing off, and just the boys being boys and like having like a good time. And the record's not going to be much different, I don't think, this year, but it's going to be going to be a vibe season, I guess I'm trying to say.
Maybe. I'd still say if they're not happy losing, like, that's still fine with me. Because, like, I don't want my team to be happy losers.
No. I'm just saying, I think, what I'm saying is, I just don't think it's going to be like, okay, the entire Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, you're looking at these guys and they're like, oh, Bedard wants out of Chicago so bad. Like, they don't even look like they're having, like, that kind of stuff. I think that's a thing in the past. I think, like I said, Bedard might be still showing that just because that's how he's built. Yeah. But I just think that it's just, there's going to be good vibes.
I don't know if at this point, if Bedsy would fucking smile if he scored 2 hat-tricks in the game. I think he just wants to win. And I think he'll smile when he's raising the cup over his head.
I don't even think he smiles when he raised the cup over his head. I think he's just going to
be when he gets a hat trick of cups, maybe that.
I don't even think that it's going to be. Should be 4.
Should be 4.
He gets 4th. Should be 5. Like, until his parents change the programming on this robot to just show him like positive emotion, like, he's never going to be happy.
Until the Blackhawks go 84-0, because we're going to have 84 games soon.
Yep.
And 16-0 in the playoffs for a solid 100-0 season, he may never smile. Yep. Except for he might smile if he scores a goal for Canada in the Olympics.
Yeah, but that'll be different.
That'll be
Team Canada. Bedard's a different beast. That's a whole different color.
He might have the bubble on and everything. You never know.
Bubble Bedard. Oh, What a
Kid's a
monster.
beast. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the big Hawks news right now.
Yep.
Do real quick rapid fire if there's anything else you want to talk about, or let's just get into the interview so we can get to the interview.
Marco Rossi signed 3 years, $5 million per, because he's no Frank Nazar.
Oh man, I bet you too. He was pissed when he saw the Nazar deal. Like, God.
I'm surprised, dude. The fact that deal came in under Frankie's is crazy to me. For a guy that doesn't want to play for the team that he's on, he signed a 3-year deal, and only $5 million per. It's just kind of, I don't know. It just seems kind of, and he just had like a 60-point year.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't understand Minnesota, but it's all right. Put all that money to use so Kirill can come to Chicago next year.
Yeah, I mean, we can get Kirill, or we can get Jack Eichel, or we can get Connor McDavid.
Cap's going up. Why not both? We have so much cap space.
Dude, why not all three?
We still sign Bedard to an 8-year, $15 million, and still have enough money for at least two of those guys you said.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we can just do it for like 2-year deals for these guys too. Like, hey, that's fine. Anton Frondel's coming.
Dude, I forgot about him too. Oh my God, this team is gonna be so good.
Yeah, it is. It's gonna be fun.
Oh
Fuck yeah, dude. All right, yeah, let's flop it over. Flop it. Let's swap it over to the interview. That shit was fun.
Yes, all right. So this interview is Kirk McKnight, author of The Voices of Hockey. Great conversation. We'll send it out on that. So make sure you subscribe to us on your favorite podcast site, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can watch us. Social media at WCB Podcast. And yeah, enjoy the interview.
All right. Bye, boys. Bye.
All right, so today we are joined by a very special guest. He is the author of books, The Voices of Baseball and The Voices of Hockey. Broadcasters reflect on the fastest game on earth, where he spoke with legends in the broadcasting world, including Pat Foley, Len Casper, and Hawk Harrelson, just to name a few of the local Chicago names. Please welcome to the show, Kirk McKnight. Kirk, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. So happy to have you here. Your book has been making the rounds on social media. I've been seeing a lot about it, and I was actually really happy to hear from you and be able to get this interview going. But I guess let's just kind of get right into it. So the book, how did this book come to be? Did you grow up like a hockey fan? Was it more of like a follow up to the baseball one? What inspired the hockey version?
I think the answer is yes to both of those questions. The Voices of Baseball kind of created the foundation for me to like reach out to the broadcasters and get from them their experiences. The only difference is the Voices of Baseball really, since there's no uniformity in baseball and all the ballparks are shaped differently and the ball plays differently, I kind of played on that angle to get from a broadcaster like what it is that people look for or can look forward to going to a game. And honestly, if you think about it, the Voices of Baseball would be a great tutorial on how to bet on baseball. I don't think a lot of people realize that you can see which kind of ground ball pitcher is throwing in a tiny little ballpark. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, but the Voices of Hockey, though, going over to the Voices of Hockey, it's like, there is uniformity now in hockey. It used to not be that way. The Bruins used to have a pretty smaller playing surface than the rest of the league, and they used that to their advantage. A couple other teams might have as well. I think even Chicago, at the Chicago Stadium days, their ice surface might even have been a little bit smaller. I know that Boston Gardens was, but so when you can't like really play off of things like universality and dimensions and all those things, what can I sit there and get from these broadcasters? And so I said, well, why don't I get their most memorable games like I did with baseball, but also let's try to see if there's some craziness to think about and to get the craziest stories. And it was amazing what I was able to find out even at the NHL level. And, we're talking Chicago here. I think Pat Foley said it the best because his very first game broadcast for the Blackhawks, all hell broke loose. People were on the ice. Fan came onto the ice drunk, was dragged into the penalty box, was trying to hold on for dear life, and they shut the door, and that let all that go, and and then we got line brawls, and then I think there was even a goal on a dump out, like it was a 180-foot goal that the goaltender misplayed.
Yeah.
And Foley said, "Really, it happens up here like this?" And we're talking, now he's a Hall of Famer and out broadcast for so many years at the Blackhawks. But I think that encapsulates hockey at the NHL level, that you really might find yourself, no matter how many years you've done it, saying, "Really, it happens up here, huh?"
Yeah, I think that's when I was listening to the audiobook version, I was just like, yeah, that's pretty hilarious that in your first game you're watching a goal from the opposite end and then a full-on breakout of like a brawl, and you're like, okay, like let me announce all of this, I guess. But yeah, it's just so crazy. Did you feel like after the baseball book, like you really wanted to do hockey, or were you interested in doing other sports and you were like, I think hockey is going to be the one to go to?
No, my two favorite sports are hockey and baseball. But while I was promoting the baseball book, I was watching hockey in baseball's off season or whatever, and I just thought to myself, this is such a different beast, broadcasting for hockey than for baseball. Then I started thinking about the legends, and I mean, we're talking about Chicago, so I mean, and I'm not meaning to clown on the guy, because he was a legend in his own sphere, and he was a legend across the globe to all broadcasters. They love the guy, but Harry Carey could probably never broadcast a hockey game. I don't think he'd make it through a period. As great as he was at calling the game, you saw the things he would make, the mistakes he would make, and he kind of almost. You can't get away with some of the stuff he says on TV, because sometimes on radio you can kind of cheat to it and like kind of play off of it and whatever. But when people see what's actually going on, they can tell when you're making mistakes. But not only that, just the tempo of the game. I don't think Harry Carey would have stood the test of time in a game like hockey. And so then I started thinking, okay, I gotta talk to these guys, because I'm really into broadcasting, and I'm really into like the guys in their craft, and I just want to know like what fuels them, and you just really get an absolute admiration of these guys and the way they're able to use their pipes on a nightly basis.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, yeah, like you bringing up that whole point about like Harry Carey couldn't do it. Like we recently in Chicago, like once Pat Foley retired, we had Chris Voster's come in for a season, and he's been known to say like, oh, I prefer doing baseball and all that kind of stuff. And really could tell in his broadcasting of the hockey game, like he's definitely more of a story type guy. And I think that like it's two completely very different styles, but they're two very important styles. Like you need that side that tells you the stories and is able to make a 3-hour game feel like an hour with, keeping your attention. And then hockey, it's like being able to go on the fly, change, you're calling 1 second to this, and then a turnover happens and you got to instantly, prepare a goal call potentially. It's insane.
With that, it's the thing that I always think of is that Nick Castellanos call, where it's like he's doing a whole apology, and then it's just like, and that's a line drive to left, Nick Castellanos with the home run, and then he just goes back. It's like the baseball calling, you can be in the middle of a story, and you're like, and that's a ball outside, and then you continue the story, where you cannot do that in hockey at all. It is so, you got to wait till the next whistle. And then basically, if you can remember what you wanted to say from like 5 minutes ago, if there hasn't been a whistle, then you can hopefully sneak that in there. But it's just, yeah, I mean, like you said, they're just constantly going. So it's so interesting that like you got to see the words from the baseball guys and then the hockey guys, just to compare the two worlds. And I think that's amazing that like, one, you got to talk to Pat Foley, and that's some good stuff there. Because like when you first wrote the book, it came out in 2016, is that correct?
Yeah.
Did you? I've only gotten a chance to catch parts of the audiobook right now, but did you get a chance to chat with Pat Foley after that part of the book?
No, and that was the thing. So going back over it, and here's the thing about Pat Foley, and this is why I wanted to go with Judd, even though
Okay.
Judd moved on to the Boston Bruins, Judd was able to be there on the call. And so, as legendary as Foley is, he's the TV guy. So like, he's not able to partake in some of these broadcaster, and he was the one who even said it. He said, "You're gonna have to ask." I go, "Well, if you want to know how it was, you're gonna have to ask the radio guys, because I wasn't on it." And so, it's kind of like, you're like, wow, even though I'm talking to a legend right now, I still am not getting the essence of calling a Stanley Cup and calling 3 in 6 seasons, the way that Judd was able to be kind of there for some of that. And so I think it's just great to be able to grab some of that from somebody like Judd, and still also have on your resume saying you talked to Pat Foley, because he gave plenty enough as it was to do some of the behind the scenes as far as everything was going. But yeah, I think that that's why I love so much being able to go back over it, because there's just so much more that's happened. And even though, like, by the time the book came out, we had already talked 3 championships, but now we're talking like ground level. We're talking about the sound bites that were on WGN, and like those played that I will not repeat, but and were played over a period of time, just endlessly. I didn't really get that the first time around, because I wasn't, because Pat, his duties were turned over after the first round, basically.
So that's one thing that kind of came up when I was listening to the Devil section chapter, and Doc Emmerich was calling national games at the time, but he was the New Jersey Devils broadcaster, so he was still able to call his team, and that kind of like maybe I always said this too when the Hawks were winning the cup. I'm like, it's a shame Pat Foley wasn't able to call it. It's like, do you think? I don't know if this is just like crazy, just me randomly thinking, but like, do you think that the hometown guy should have the opportunity to join the national broadcast, or do you think like it's just that different level of a event that you need to go with a Doc Emmerich or Kenny Alberts?
Well, it used to be the way, even back in the days when the Rangers won it in '94. I believe that the local broadcasts were still on it, TV wise. They weren't turning it over there, and I think that was the last year they did it. So Marv was able to call. Well, Marv was on the radio, but Sam Rosen, Hall of Famer. We're talking 6 years Hall of Famers here. They both were able to basically be part of that, and so, I mean, of course, on an individual basis, you probably would love for your guys to call it. Personal experience, like, I lived in Vegas my whole life, so I was close by when they won the Stanley Cup. And Dave Gosher came from Boston. He was in Boston and was on the radio, so he was on the call for the Bruins winning in 2011, and he grew up in Boston. So kind of like a Pat Foley kind of situation, growing up in a city, being able to be there for them to achieve their championship glory. But Dave didn't have the exact opportunity to do that when they won it in 23, because he was on the TV, and Dan Duva is the radio guy. But I don't think for a second that Gosher regrets the whole realm of things, because he had his moment. He had his moment to call. It's like that's everything else after 2011 is probably gravy for somebody like Gosher. But being able to be on the ground floor for the most successful expansion franchise in NHL history, or in any of the major sports, and even though he wasn't on those calls, he did fill in for Duva in round 3 for the Winnipeg against the Winnipeg Jets. I do know that much. But, to answer your question, I think that, yes, we would love that on an individual market basis, but we just kind of got to let the chips land where they land, and just kind of put it, give it up to God. And I guess God in those years was Doc Emmerich or Gary Thorne, and now Kenny Albert. And all 3 of those guys are people that I have texted and had conversations with, and are all in the book. And I'm happy for all 3 of them. I think it would probably be the ultimate for Kenny to be able to call a Rangers championship the way his dad did. But we'll see if that ever happens.
Yeah. So, man, you're just listening these names out, and it's amazing. Like, these guys you sit there and listen to, and it's like growing up, Gary Thorne on ESPN, ABC, and all that kind of stuff. When you're talking to these guys to get these stories for your book, like, how difficult was it to actually be like, I got to do my job to get these down for the book and not just get lost into the stories. Cause I mean, that had to have been a really difficult part of this.
I mean, I can't count with both hands the amount of time it take my toes as well to think about the times where I'm just sitting there just trying to pinch myself. Starting with the baseball book and talking with John Miller in a Scottsdale hotel lobby, and I'm typing in the letters John Miller into my interview software, and I like stop because I'm like, is this really happening? I'm John's dressed like he's in his pajamas. Am I sleeping? Am I in my pajamas? uh, but and over 115 broadcasters over these two books. There still are those moments where I just sat there and say, oh my gosh, I'm really about to talk with Marv Albert. I'm really about to talk with Doc Emmerich, Bob Costas. And of course, after the fact, and I'm sitting there texting him, and I'm like, those are the moments that I love too, is just having these text conversations with these guys after. But I still get these pinch me moments, even over the two books and all the people that I've talked to.
That's awesome. So let's go back to kind of like the whole process with the book being started. So like, obviously you said you're a big fan of baseball and hockey. Is there anything in particular that like drew you to the broadcasting side of it? Like, was there something that like, did you grow up admiring that side of games or of the sports, or is that just something that kind of was the green light? Oh, let's write a book about this.
So, when you're growing up close enough to the West Coast, you got Vin Scully on your radio on a nightly basis in the summer, and he's the voice of your summers. And so I had just an attachment to the voices of baseball growing up. But really, what really sparked everything was I thought to myself, I'm like, I would love to go to every single ballpark in baseball, because they're just, and I had already run up kind of a list of the ones that I'd been to at the time when the concept was getting developed. But then I was like, okay, so I can write about it, but I'm like sitting there thinking, I'm like, well, I don't want to do like the Fromer's Guide kind of thing where it's like, I mean, I've read those books, they're fine and all that, but those things are becoming a dime a dozen. Like, oh, when you go to Yankee Stadium, go to section 104 and you'll have these, Parmesan garlic fries, yay, or something like that. And I'm like, I don't want to do that, and everybody does that. So I thought, okay, if we talk about the uniqueness, team by team, stadium by stadium, who would know best? And I'm not going to sit here and interview baseball players. I'm not going to be able to get a hold of those guys. And who's been there the longest? I mean, the broadcasters outlast the players. They outlast the managers. Sometimes the team changes ownership in the middle. And I make the joke that in the case of Vin Scully, the broadcasters outlast the city itself. So that's where the concept came about.
When you were talking to some of the guys, did you come across like any stories that you felt like couldn't go in the book, that you're like, oh, this is pretty good stuff?
Yes. By their hand as well. Yes, there were. Of course, this is the joke I make with people, that I say, there's a difference when you're just coming to a broadcaster, say, hey, I have this idea, and when you come back to them and say, hey, I got a book deal and I want to make sure these quotes are okay. And so all of a sudden you got people sitting there saying, well, I did say that there were pretty girls in the stands, in the swimming pools. Can't say that. My wife might read this, and so obviously you have to sit there and use a little more discretion. And I wish, and I leave this to the discretion of the broadcasters. And even after the players have retired, they're still like, I'm still not comfortable, but I'm going to tell a story. It's okay, because, I'm sure it's made it around the rounds. But, a story that really would have loved to have go in the book was when Yager was playing for the Penguins. They did a game in the Forum. This was back in the Forum days, even, obviously with Yager playing. Yeah, but there was like this lady that was sitting there just kind of like, hey, Yarmir, at the dock, where they're getting off the bus and about to go to the practice and do the practice skate. And, broadcasters are kind of hanging back. They notice, and they're like, no, that's interesting. Well, they're coming back up from the skate, hours later. And here's the lady like sitting there like, Yarmir. So same lady. And she's all, can I have a signature? So Yarmir's like, okay, yeah, you sat through this whole practice. You deserve at least an autograph. She goes, will you sign my cheek? So and she means not this cheek. She means the one down there. She pulls her pants down, gives a butt cheek to him, and he sits there and signs it. And the broadcaster is watching this whole time. He's like, I know she just went to a tattoo parlor there in downtown LA or something and just immediately tattooed that onto her skin. So of course I wanted to share that in the book, couldn't. And to this day I couldn't, because the reason I couldn't, because Yager was still playing. And Yager just was, and to this day it's like you feel like Yager might still play, and so I still can't put that in the book.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's a total Yager thing too.
I feel like Yager though at this point would probably just be like, yeah, that happened.
Well, there's a meme because they're starting to do this thing where girls like take a picture of them, like, in the background, Yager's lying on the side, like, yeah, and he's like, yeah, come after me in court, lady, I'm Jaromir Yager.
Yeah. It's like, I run Czechia.
Okay. That's why I feel like it's okay to share the story, because it's like, that if that can happen, I can sit there and talk about him signing a girl's butt. Yeah.
I don't think he's married anyway, so I don't think there's anybody that can really get mad at him about that.
Right.
He's just married to the game. That's it.
That's right. Probably always will be.
Absolutely. I know he has said that apparently he wants the shortest amount of time in his life to be from when he retires to when he dies. I was like, all right, like he's just going to play hockey forever and just die on the ice.
I mean, that's the other thing about, like, I mean, he won his 2 cups, like, almost right out the gates, and he had such a lengthy career. It's kind of like Miguel Cabrera in baseball. Miguel won his rookie year with Florida, and then went on to like just be a regular season hero for 20 straight seasons and just have this Hall of Fame worthy career. But like, it's hard to think about the fact that like he won that title playing for the Marlins and not like any of the years that he played for the Tigers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think what immediately came to mind is like probably current day Corey Perry, because he won super early in his career, and then he's been to the final a lot lately, but just can't get it done. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's another one for sure.
So let's go back to like talking about the hockey book here. Obviously we're biased. Pat Foley, he's the greatest of all time. You can't change our mind regardless on that one. So when you were talking to him, just like the overall, like, just sitting down with him, or however you had that conversation with him, was there anything you took away from him, just in terms of like, how he represented himself or how he represented the Hawks, or vice versa, or anything like that?
I lost you on that question. Can you repeat it?
Yeah, sure. So when you were sitting down talking with Pat, was there, when you were talking with him, was there any like takeaways you got from him, not in terms of like, content for like for the book, but just kind of like what Chicago hockey meant to him, and like what he meant to Chicago hockey, like, and just this mystique that is Pat Foley? Like, was there any like takeaways from him like that way?
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's in the book too, because he just sit there and said it himself. He says to be able to, it is a true chevron on your arm, the chevron symbol on your arm, like in the military. It is a true chevron and pin on your uniform to broadcast for an original 6 team. I think we need to say that right now. To basically say you are a broadcaster for an original 6 team is a mantle that you carry with pride. And the fact that he was able to do that and do it for a city and the market that he grew up in, and being able to see the players, he took it onto himself, like, to just really dive into it. He mentioned a lot of players that probably should have been in the Hall of Fame, and a lot of times probably should have led the team to a Stanley Cup. But you're coming against players like the Edmonton Oilers in the 80s, and it's just so hard to get over that. It's such a hard hump to get over, and to be able to break on through for that. So it's, thinking about the West in those times, you're not getting past the Edmonton Oilers and the Calgary Flames in the 80s and those kinds of things. And so though he wasn't really able to experience this stuff until 20 or 30 years into his career, he said it himself. He says, to be able to do this, it's like one in infinity. The odds are one in infinity to be able to grow up in this market and to do this. Not one in a million, like one in infinity. And that was one of the big takeaways I had, just how much he loves it. But it's also just so much, also the reverence that you pay to the fact that you are broadcasting for an Original Six team. It's like the broadcasters who are calling games, as like the Joe Beninattis and John Waltons of Washington calling games for Alexander Ovechkin, closing in on and passing Wayne Gretzky. The Jack Michaels of Edmonton calling games for Connor McDavid, Joe Bowen in Toronto calling Austin Matthews. These guys who kind of make history a nightly thing, and they realize that it's like, if you're not on your game, it's on you, and shame on you, because you are given this gift to be able to call these players, these phenoms. And if you are not on your A game while they are on their A game, then that falls on you. And you're gonna get it from the fans for not really living up to that moment.
Yeah. We are very familiar with that. with the way that we had Chris Foster's for the first couple seasons, or the first season of Connor Bedard, and you're just kind of like, he does something amazing, and the play-by-play, you're like, that doesn't match what just happened. Like, what is happening right now? Like, does he know that was just incredible what he just did? Like, it just feels like it's like a huge disconnect when somebody's not like as enthusiastic as they should be about it, which is why I'm really glad we got Rick Ball, who I believe you got to talk to Rick Ball. Was there like, how was that? How was the chat with Rick Ball? Was he seems like a really stand-up guy.
So Rick's great, and I talked to him, and he was great addition to the Calgary Flames chapter. And when I found out that Rick came over to Chicago, I immediately texted him. I'm like, congratulations, because like I said, to go from Calgary, which, listen, if you're broadcasting for the Flames, you're broadcasting for some really devout and really loyal and really energetic fans, and a great hockey market. You got a great rival, up north, just only a couple 100 miles away in the Oilers. But to come to an Original Six city is just like, I'm sure when he got that opportunity, it's just like with Judd. Judd already was broadcasting for an Original Six, but basically to have that opportunity to go over to another Original Six, he's like, I'm jumping on it. Like, I was here for this dynasty. I'm ready to take this new opportunity to go over to Boston. So I'm happy for Rick, because I know that Rick gets it, and I know that Rick wants to encircle the broadcast with what it is that is this environment. And he really tried that out in Calgary, coming in, because he started interviewing some of these old-time Calgary Flames players and saying, hey, like the Oilers and the Flames, they're both pretty competitive. Isn't that great for this sport? And isn't that great for this rivalry? And we got like Jim Poplinski saying, what are you talking about? I don't want the Edmonton Oilers to ever win another game for the rest of eternity. And so Rick kind of grabbed that and was like, okay, I get it now. And now he gets to bring something like that to Chicago, and I'm so happy for him that he's able to do that.
Yeah, and I think that the fact that we also brought in Darren Pang like a couple seasons ago, just the chemistry that he has with him, like them together on the call, has just been just 1,000 times better than it was the previous season or couple seasons. And it's crazy how big of a difference the broadcasting actually makes when you're watching the game.
Yeah, for sure. I can't say it enough that, like, watching hockey on mute really just does a disservice to the game, to watch the sport. Like, I know sometimes I need to, because stuff's going around in the background, my family's trying to whatever, and I'm like, well, at least I can watch some hockey. But it really isn't the same without that mute, that volume button up, and hearing these guys really capture the moment.
Yeah, and it's just thinking about too, it, like, kind of going back to just talking about like how good these guys are calling games. It's like, we've been so fortunate in Chicago with, Pat Foley on TV, but then we've also had John Weidman on the radio. And there's times where it's like, I can go, if I'm listening on the radio, it's like, I know exactly what's going on, what's being like, how the play is playing without even seeing it. Like, he is just so fantastic. And I know when Pat was leaving, we were all kind of upset that he didn't make the jump to TV. But I think at the long run, that's probably the best move for the team was to keep him on radio. So we still had that.
Yeah. And I mean, how blessed are people to like Pat to be able to call somebody like Patrick Kane, my favorite player. I'm like not even on subject with what you're saying right now, just because I just realized that in my previous response, I'm sitting here talking about Matthews and I'm not bringing up Patrick Kane. Excuse me for that. Forgiveness, please, fans of Chicago, because Kane is my favorite player, and Kane does have 3 rings, and Kane is just walking beauty, showtime. And forgive me for saying, but he plays for the Red Wings, which to me was just so great because I was so happy that he's stuck in an original 6 market, but also they got to play for a team that I've been cheering for all my life.
That's awesome.
Did I just step over a boundary, guys? I'm sorry.
No, because you know what? It's one of those things where we're both, I think I speak for Tanner when I say like, we love Kane, but we knew it was time for that change and it was time for something new in Chicago. So he needed to go, unfortunately, but to have that,
he will come back. He will be back.
He'll be back. But it's like Fame ceremony, no doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing that I'm upset by is that we didn't get at least one season yet of Kane and Bedard. That's about it.
Yeah. Well, and you guys being from Chicago, the fact that I get Kane and DeBrincat teaming up on a daily basis and just raking up the numbers even more and just putting themselves further in the scorebook as it is, it's just beauty because it's just chemistry out on the ice with those two. It's such fantastic. A wonderful experience on the power play watching those guys work. It's ridiculous.
And then of course, typical Kane, he's got to come back to Chicago and have his story book return, and then on top of that, he has the fantastic call with that too. And it's just like, I don't know, even being a diehard Blackhawk fan who grew up hating the Red Wings, I'm like, you can't help but not be like pumped and happy for that moment and that call and all that kind of stuff. Like that was just, you couldn't write Hollywood better.
And on the opposite broadcast is the one I heard, Mickey Redmond, the color commentary, Hall of Famer color commentary to Ken Daniels, but you just hear him in the background, oh my God, like, because it's just like, oh my gosh, it's just falling from heaven. It's his night back. He's on the breakaway in overtime. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe it. It's like you guys say, you can't script this any better, and that's exactly what happened. And so, you lose yourself, and when you've been in the game as long as you have, like Mickey Redmond, you're allowed those little every once in a while letting the air slip out of the balloon there, because that's pretty much just defined the moment right there on the Red Wings broadcast. I really don't know what the Blackhawks broadcast was, but I specifically remember Redmond, just kind of forgetting himself a little bit just in the moment.
Yeah, I don't know what the Blackhawks was because I think that was still of Oster's era, so it wasn't that great, and to be honest. So it's like all I remember is the Red Wings call in the replay on that. I think even when I shared it in our social post, I shared the Red Wings call.
Wasn't that this season?
No, it was 2 seasons.
Oh my God, dude, that time is flying.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. I just remember it was because Seth Jones just decided to not pass the puck to. Oh yeah, it was Kurashev and Bedard that were both wide open, and he missed the net wide, and we're all like, what are we doing? and then you see the camera pan, and it's like, oh yeah, of course, there's Patrick Kane wide open all by himself. Like, yeah, all right, it's gonna go in.
We've seen that story a million times. What's gonna happen there?
It's like you can't be mad, but yeah, I wish I could have heard the call on the opposite end. I actually probably I gotta look that up because that's what a moment that is too.
I would say as much as I dislike the Red Wings, I do love their broadcast team and their presentation. I feel like they find that perfect balance of Homer and, calling it straight, like they're not over the top, Red Wing, but they do let it show, which I think you need when you're calling the same team for 10, 20, 30 years. Right. Like you're going to have some ties to that team and all that. It's dumb when they try to pretend that they don't.
Yeah, and another thing about hockey that I don't know how much I stressed about it in the book because it's a negative connotation that sometimes happens. But the no sell, and all due respect to Ken Daniels, and I love the Red Wings, but I feel like Ken can have the no sell a lot, and that's just the thing. Like you see his peaks and his his valleys, but the no sell kind of creeps in every once in a while, no matter where it is, score. The no sell call.
Oh, jeez.
And I truly respect Ken Daniels, and I'm not meaning this with any kind of disrespect, but there are those times where you hear the no sell kind of call with any kind of broadcaster, and it happens more in hockey than any other sport easily.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, when you were talking to all the different broadcasters, do you say like it was like a little bit? Was there anybody that was like really easy to get information from versus like someone else who is just kind of like, all right, I don't even know what I'm going to put in the book for you because like you're not giving me anything.
Oh, yeah.
You talk for a living and you're not giving me anything. Like what's going on here?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, you talk to 65 people, you're not going to have them all be perfect,
Right.
but you can definitely tell the ones who are ready to share, and most of them were. I don't really think I can't really think back of any broadcasters in the hockey book where I'm just like, this guy can't wait to get out of this interview. But I can't think of one particular in the baseball one that I won't name, but that was the thing. It was kind of like, I think we're good. Oh, okay. Like I can't get off the
All right, bye.
faster than I am. But yes, sometimes they're not as divulging as others. You kind of have to pry it because sometimes they're like, okay, you're the one who set up the interview. What are you going to ask? And so, and sometimes I'd be a deer in the headlight and just trying to figure out the next question to ask. So it didn't really happen that often. But on the positive side of all this, there are definitely broadcasters who didn't even need to be asked a question and would just kind of go. And when they do that, you got broadcasters who did, called for other teams, and you're like, man, I wasn't even asking you that question, but this is great. Yeah. This can go in this chapter. And Pete Weber is the broadcaster for the Nashville Predators, but he also was a voice for the Los Angeles Kings. And before going to Nashville to open the team up there in '97, he was the broadcaster for the Buffalo Sabres. And so you just have this fountain of calls. What were you gonna say?
I was just saying nice. Yeah, it's just good that you get all that information. It's funny because like when we've had chats with some former players and you can tell definitely the same kind of situation where like you're trying to pull so much information. Then like I think honestly off the top of my head was like Daniel Carcillo. We were like, how you doing? And he went on for like 25 minutes. And we're like, we didn't even ask anything yet.
Yeah.
I was saying Brandon Bolig we had on. I think we had a list of like 10 questions. I think we asked 2 and it was an hour interview.
It's just so funny how that works out like that. It's just good. I love it.
I got one more.
Broadcasters like Jeff Rimmer who are the same way. Like Jeff Rimmer, who just retired for the Blue Jackets a couple seasons ago. He's been all over the place, so he's got stories for everywhere. And he ended his career in Columbus. He came into broadcast for the Blue Jackets for the majority of the team's existence. But yeah, he had plenty of conversations and things to talk about from both Montreal and with Florida, and I think even Toronto. He was there for a spat.
Oh,
nice.
All right, I got one more Hawks related question. Again, we got to keep our bias here going a little bit. So the team's about to celebrate their 100th season in the NHL. So it's no surprise when I was listening back to the audio version of the book that they were brought up a lot. Was there a story that an outside broadcaster, not from Chicago, brought up about Chicago that you were like, oh, this is gold, or, I had a favorite story about Chicago that stands out to you?
Yeah. I mean, for the book, basically to kind of get that craziness that I'm talking to you about was when the 2012 playoffs were coming around and they were then called the Phoenix Coyotes, were playing the Blackhawks. That story was, basically for the Phoenix or for the Arizona Coyotes chapter of the book, but it obviously comes in, and I obviously have to have a selling point for just the essence of playing and being in a Chicago venue. So, what had happened was it Torres on Hossa, the Rafi Torres hit where it basically earned the guy suspension, and Tyson Nash on the Coyotes broadcast said it was a clean hit. So obviously after that, between games, people are just going off about Nash. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that Nash himself was a player, and Nash got into things. There's stories of Brendan Shanahan, high stick and Nash, and just those two going at it. That's in this chapter. But Nash was getting death threats on social media for saying that was a clean hit. So here we are in the game, and he's trying to do his broadcast, and all of a sudden in the United Center, a beer vendor is coming up to the booth, like kind of stopping his cells right before the booth, and he's like, Tyson Nash, and Matt McConnell's on the broadcast, and Tyson's on the color of it, but and Matt's all, hey, got my headphones in and everything, but hey, Tyson, I think that guy's trying to get a hold of you there. I think he's trying to get your attention. And Tyson's looking down, and the beer vendor's like, Tyson Nash. And he's like, what? And he's like, clean hit my ass. And so Tyson's microphone in hand. People are like enthralled in this. The people between them, they're sitting in their seats. And Tyson just, looks down at this guy about 260 pounds, and he goes, mixing a salad. And everybody in United Center that's just in the vicinity are just cracking up. And to me, I was like, that is what it's about. I've heard enough. I've heard plenty of fans going, falling into the penalty box with Ty Domi, jumping onto the ice in Quebec. I've heard of the Bruins going up into the stands at Madison Square Garden in '79, but I don't think I'd ever heard about the broadcasters getting into it with the essence of everything. So that, to me, I was like, so golden, because I love to be able to, even though, Chicago has its own chapter, I love to basically have a little bit of Chicago and the sense of Chicago in these other chapters. And so, being able to kind of carry over, even though it's the Phoenix Coyotes, and they're beating the Blackhawks and all that, but to kind of get how that is what would happen in a game in the United Center, I thought, oh, this is too perfect. I can't pass this up. So that was my favorite non-Blackhawks chapter story that involved the Blackhawks.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's hilarious. I love that.
That's perfect. I know there's a lot of interactions between the broadcasters and fans and stuff, because I don't know if you've ever been to the United Center. The 300 section on where all the booths are, it's not that big of a gap between the last row and the broadcast booth. So I've seen people talking with, Pat Foley, Eddie Olczyk, all this stuff between whistles and stuff. So that's awesome. I guarantee there's more stories like that out there. Just hopefully we got to find the right broadcaster to want to give the story.
Or just them actually having to remember something along those lines. Cause I don't know if it's all that common. If it's more common than that, then they're probably I don't know, it probably happens all the time.
Yeah. Cause it's not as intimate as being in the old arenas. And I'm talking about not just Chicago Stadium and Boston Gardens, but even when the Capitals came into the league at the old, whatever that center was in Landover, Maryland, where they played before they moved, where the broadcasts were set up, the people that were close by, they were cheating their way into the booth to kind of see replays or things like that. And then over in New Jersey, back in the Meadowlands, before they went to the Rock and moved over to Newark, they would be close enough to the writers, the writers, not necessarily the broadcasters, but the writers were close enough to the fans that they were hearing it from them. The fans know when a writer says something. I'm an editor for a newspaper. That's my job. And so they always let me know if they don't appreciate something being taken out or something not put in. So when you're that close to a writer and you can actually talk to them and be face to face with them and be within, striking distance of them, it's not the most comfortable area to be around when you're trying to do your job.
I'm picturing at the Mullet Arena right before Phoenix or the Coyotes ended up moving, where it's 4,500 people, and you get probably the broadcast and then fans mixed in because you're trying to maximize seating. That's got to be like a tough place.
That's where I was. I was for those 2 seasons before I was down in Phoenix. So I went to a few games, and that was such a great environment to catch a hockey game because you're in a college arena, but you've got top level talent and you're just right there. It's the way hockey used to be, except for about a third of the people in attendance, or a fourth. I mean, it was only 4,600 people capacity. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous what they did to that team before finally giving them the mercy kill and sending them up to Salt Lake. I was sad for the environment, and I was sad for the community, but they did not show the love to these guys, and they forced their hand. It's the same thing that's happening in Oakland, how they're coming down to Las Vegas.
Oh yeah.
I followed that for years, and it's really hard to see that in some of these markets, and you're never going to see something like that in Chicago. There's going to be like federal injunctions to make sure that no Chicago team ever leaves the city. That's just how much it means and just what a valued commodity is. But you still do see things in these other areas where they're just not getting it done. They're not renewing the leases for the team to play in the arena. They're bouncing them all over the valley like they're, a foster child, and that's what happens. And then they end up going to Salt Lake and to a arena ready for hockey, but they had to get him out of there.
Yeah. All right. One last thing I got for you, or a question to ask for you too, is so like listen throughout the whole book, and any hockey, especially old time hockey fan, knows that rivalries throughout the history is like is a huge thing. And so it really made me thinking about trying to look at the broadcast side of it is, besides Detroit and Colorado, because that was going to be one regardless, that we all know the bloodbath that those two teams had all the time. But it's like, how much do these broadcasters deserve credit too for some of these rivalries, being able to, really put into words like the hatred between these two teams, and like how many like people listening or watching, that don't get the experience in person, like some of these rivalries that probably deserve, a little hat tip to some of the broadcasters to, really get things going for them.
So, yeah, I feel like the broadcasters definitely deserve a tip of the hat, because when you're a hockey broadcaster, you not only have to call the game, you have to call the fights, and you have to bring that intensity into your broadcast. So when you got your radio guys who are trying to paint that picture and to really kind of, encapsulate what is going on when something happens where Darren McCarty and Claude Lemieux are going at it, and basically the blood feud is getting to its bubbling point, and you're having to describe that. So I definitely give the broadcasters a tip of the hat for being able to paint that picture and be able to broadcast the intensity and the pure hatred that these players can get for each other. What I was also saying or thinking was that sometimes the broadcasters are newer, and so they're not used to those old days when there was like a yard sale on the ice and everybody's equipment was off because they're chucking them. And so, they're not really broadcasting in that era. Some of the guys were, and some of the guys that were broadcasting in that, we're seeing how the evolution of hockey has kind of gone away from that. We're not seeing as many line brawls, and they're a little bit more of it. But then you got the guys who are coming in and like, no, this is why I came up. This is why I wanted to broadcast hockey. I wanted to see these line brawls. I wanted to be able to sit there and call five fights at the same time, and maybe just not getting those opportunities. But they do get them every once in a while. Not as often as they used to. And when they do get those, they're like, oh, this is great. And a good tip of the hat goes to them for that, because they can jump in on that moment. And whether they need to paint the picture for those tuning in on the radio who can't see it, or the people who are probably trying to watch it and figure out what the heck's going on, because sometimes they just kind of surprise you with that. So to be able to kind of create the moment, I really do say, yeah, a tip goes to those guys.
Yeah. I mean, when that last part you're bringing up there, when like trying to show the intensity of the fight, like for whatever reason my mind just goes straight to the Four Nations and just how each fight was like, they're at it again. It's like, oh my God. Like you just feel it. You just feel it in like, as you're watching it too, you're like, oh, the intensity of it. You're just like, oh my God. Yeah. This is US versus Canada. Like, this is crazy. Like, oh my God, I love it. I got one last question, but before I get to that, I just want to ask if there's anything else about the book that you wanted to bring up that we haven't kind of like touched on. Just because I don't want to miss out on anything that you wanted to bring up at all.
Just for the Chicago crowd, a big part of the Washington Capitals chapter obviously is going to be Alexander Ovechkin. And, this book was in post-production while he was passing Gretzky this last season. But I was able to grab, up to certain points of his career, courtesy of John Walton. And one of the things that Chicago fans would be really appreciative of and kind of, tip their hat to is the fact that, so when Ovechkin got goal number 800, it was at the tail end of a hat trick playing against the Chicago Blackhawks. And so talking with John Walton, the Washington people were probably a little more hopeful that he would get 800. The next game after the Blackhawks was going to be at home for Washington. So it would have been like a good homecoming and a chance for him to get 800. It's the first time in, he'd be the third player in hockey history after Gordie Howe and Wayne Gretzky to reach the 800 mark. And so he said, basically that Ovi had gotten that first goal within the first minute of play, and he had a second goal before the first period was even over. So they knew that it was going to happen. Then, there's like, this is a night he's going to get that 800th goal. And he said, even though he didn't do it before a Washington crowd, he said, at least it happened in an original six city. And the fact that, Chicago fans were taking their hats off and throwing it on the ice, and to really kind of pay homage and give reverence to that moment said a lot to him for the Chicago market and the Chicago fans. And I'll tell you right now, I am the last person who's going to want to take one of my hats and throw it onto the ice. But if you are among hockey history like that and hockey immortality, and to have the seat for that, even if it's not your team, you throw that hat, because how many times in your life are you going to say that you were there in the building when somebody got the 800th goal? You're not going to get another chance to do that. I can't even think of who the next person in line to get to 800 is, but they're way far off. I'll tell you that much.
Oh yeah.
So that was a big nod to the Chicago fans and to somebody who, even though they weren't calling it at home, he thought, you know what, the next best thing would be to call it in this original six market like Chicago and in a place like that.
I think it's actually kind of funny that you brought that up too, because like he also almost broke the goal record against the Hawks with a hat trick. He was I want to say like inches away. Also, a Connor Murphy own goal away from breaking it, and it's like so close. Oh my god, what a player. So the last question I had was just, do you think Detroit's going to make the playoffs this year?
I do think they're going to make the playoffs. I think that Yzerman didn't screw them up this last offseason the way he did the season before. I know that I know that most of Detroit's probably echoing that sentiment. I don't necessarily think that Yzerman necessarily screwed it up so much as just the Wallman deal. It just bit us. It just bit us in the butt the whole season. And to see Wallman doing what he did, I thought, you know what, if we just had him, it would be a world of difference. But I do feel like Stevie Y is a very astute general manager. You saw what he did, and you saw the foundation he laid for the Lightning. And we expect them to be able to repeat that eventually in Detroit. So, yeah, I do think they make the playoffs. And if this is Showtime swan song, which hopefully it's not, but if it is, I hope he does go out in the playoffs, basically going into another postseason, a qualifying season.
Yeah, that'd be good.
100%.
I mean, Wallman and what, a second for nothing, and then San Jose trades him for a first. It's like, that's terrible. That's bad. That's bad stuff.
And then the moment it happened, you're not thinking, okay, this is okay, but you saw the manifestation of just what a bad move it was throughout the year. It just kept growing like a scab that you're just picking at on your arm. That's really what it was. A scab that the Detroit players or the Detroit community just kept picking at their arms, or just everything else surrounding Detroit was happening. And they just look at the end and it's like, man, this is not a little cut. This is a gash. This is infected.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
That's funny.
All right, Kirk. So we end all of our interviews with the same question. So what is your all-time favorite hockey memory?
Ooh, well, opening night, T-Mobile Arena, Golden Knights. It was right after October 1 shootings, a few days after that. So it was really a night of reverence and soberness in that arena to kind of honor the 58 who fell, and to see basically their names etched into the ice and in the pregame ceremony. Just to be a part of that, the weight of everything that had happened over the past week and a half prior to that game, just on your shoulders, and for them to come out and just basically, you almost had I mean, speaking of hat trick moments, I thought by the end of the first period I was going to have to lose my hat because James Neal already had two in the first period. I'm like, we're going to have a hat trick right out the gates opening night. And so that is my ultimate memory for sure, is to be there in T-Mobile Arena to watch the Golden Knights play their very first home regular season game, and just annihilate the Coyotes. It doesn't get better than that. And I have the commemorative puck that they handed out. It's in my case here on my wall, and I have a homage to that whole season with the 10 games that I went to and just everything about it. So that would be my ultimate memory.
That is so awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It has been an absolute blast talking, your stories and going on tangents on all of our ends about, hockey and all that kind of stuff. It's been so much fun. So for our listeners, you want to just give a quick rundown where they can find you, what if you do social media, or where they can find your books at?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Instagram on the Voices of Baseball. Even though we're obviously pushing the Voices of Hockey, you'll find me on the Voices of Baseball on Instagram. But check out Apple Books, and pretty much by this weekend, get on Audible, and you'll be able to find a copy of the book in Audible.
Awesome. And yeah, we will make sure to put down the links into our descriptions and when we share the episode. So if you're listening, we'll make it super easy for you to find the book, and you guys are going to enjoy it. It is a very awesome, well done, history from the broadcaster's point of view and everything. It is a fantastic book for any hockey fan out there.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on, and we will we'll talk soon.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for listening to the WCB podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast. To connect with Jerem and Tanner, check out the boys at WCB Podcast on all social media. We'll see you next time.